All right.
All right, start over for the camera. So again, I'm Dr. Chad Barfknecht. I'm from Menominee, Wisconsin. I have a family wellness practice up there, a chiropractic office. Dr. Ben and I know him back from our first days in chiropractic school. We met there, and we've been teaching this vaccine class up in Menominee for a while. Have had a lot of good responses to it, good attendance, parents asking a lot of questions. So Ben wanted me to come down here and present it to the community down here. So obviously I appreciate you showing up. It's like one of the first probably nice Saturdays of the year, and you guys are here to sit through this. So hopefully keep it pretty entertaining for you, really informative. It'll take about an hour 15 minutes, so if some of you have to leave, if you have obligations, hey, just sneak out. That won't offend me at all. So going through this class here, a little bit more on my education. I went to, I'm originally from Ladysmith, Wisconsin, went to undergrad at Winona State University, so right up the river here. Played basketball there for 4 years, was basically pre-med. Ended up going to chiropractic school down at Palmer College Chiropractic, same place as Dr. Ben. So spent 4 years down there after my undergrad, and then worked at a family wellness practice down there for a year before my wife and I moved back up to northern Wisconsin. We bought a practice in Menominee about 5 years ago, and it's been a blast up there. So I'm married, I have 3 kids, 2 girls that are 6, 4 and a half, or almost 5, and a little guy that'll just be 2 here in July too. So I got a crazy life at home, kind of like a lot of you do here, or some of you I know are coming from a daycare setting, so you get to deal with even more of the craziness for a profession. So we'll get rolling into this. So this class is called Vaccinations Making Informed Choices. The way I present these classes is I'm not going to tell you what to do with your kids. I'm not going to tell you who's right and who's wrong in this whole topic, because it's a hot topic, especially lately in the media. There's a lot of blasting going on with measles and mumps and all that stuff going on. So this class is just to give you some more ammunition in your brain and to give you some resources to really dig into this topic a little bit and not just follow what I may tell you or what Dr. Ben may tell you or what your pediatrician may tell you, but really make an informed choice that works for you and your family. So this presentation, it's in a Prezi format, so it's a little bit different than the PowerPoint stuff, so it kind of spins and torques and twists a little bit like that. We got videos infused into here, so it's not just going to be me talking nonstop up here. We'll let some other people talk on videos. And if there's any questions, as we go through this, you can ask questions as we go through it, or if you just want to wait till the end, we'll have kind of a question and answer session at the end. So that being said, we'll get rolling. We'll see if all the technology works after my computer wanted to update about 5 minutes before we were supposed to start here.
Vaccine completely changed my life. I would do anything to see my life back normal.
History teaches us how effective vaccines are.
Vaccines are the best choice for almost all children.
I don't think it's that black and white. Vaccines in some way have been a victim of their own success. The government, they're trying to protect society, but these motivations interfere with, safety issues.
In the last 3 decades, the numbers of doses of vaccines have more than tripled.
We are seeing a rise in the number of children with disabilities.
What if these shots that are supposed to protect kids actually hurt your child?
After the shots, I started getting sick. I've had 2 strokes, partial paralysis, partial vision, and I'm having seizures.
I would have never dreamt that this was a side effect of a vaccine.
Many of these have the potential to be neurotoxic.
The research is incomplete, and the certainty is not scientific.
A number of prescription drugs that have been licensed as safe have been found to be unsafe.
The social fabric, it is better to insist on vaccination than to allow free rein.
The people who are approving the vaccines are taking the word of the pharmaceutical companies. The majority of vaccine research is paid for by the vaccine manufacturers themselves.
We're the only country other than New Zealand that allows advertising on TV for pharmaceutical drugs.
You can't sue the drug company that made the vaccine.
That's not science, that's politics.
Texas Governor Rick Perry has ordered that schoolgirls must get the Gardasil shot.
We can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way.
The only thing that we oppose is forced vaccination.
Sadly, some people don't do what's best for their children unless it's mandated.
We're not zealots. We're not some people that are looking for a conspiracy or a fight.
The vaccine program, it's one size fits all.
We worry about the future.
You could have 30, 40, 50 different vaccines mandated and absolutely no accountability. You have a prescription for disaster.
I have a child, and then I follow the rules, and I damage this town. That's hard. You understand?
I just want everybody to lay down their arms and figure out what is making them so sick.
Show us the science and give us the choice.
So this movie, if you haven't seen it, you can go to this website, they're going to show you thegreatergoodmovie.org. You can watch that. Amazing movie, goes on both sides of the issue, kind of like we're going to be talking about today. But I would highly recommend watching that video. So big picture overview on what we're going to be doing today. Like I said, it's a present format, so it's all kind of chaotic, kind of how my brain works once in a while too, so it fits me perfectly. The big thing that we want to talk about right away, obviously this is a very controversial, emotional issue. There's two potentially conflicting values that operate in this controversy. Number one is we want to have that desire to eliminate disease, and second, it's the desire of the parents to protect their children from damage also. Vaccines pose a risk, disease pose a risk. How do you balance the risk from the disease versus the risk from the vaccines? So, good website down there, where does the answer lie? If you check out that website, there's a lot more good information as far as a resource. So mission statement of this, hey, it's making informed choices is an election to educate and inform the community about family health and wellness. I always seek to present research published and informed opinions. You, of course, are entitled to make your own opinion, which I encourage. It's not my job to prove to you that vaccines are unsafe and ineffective. I do, however, think it is the job of those recommending them for your children to prove that they are safe and effective, which they don't do a very good job of providing that data. So plan of attack for today. We're going to go through how do vaccines work, how does the immune system work, what are some of the controversial ingredients in vaccines. I'm not going to focus on this big time in this talk. That's one of the big debates when you hear the vaccine lectures and stuff like that. The people that are dead set against them, they really go almost fear-based with the ingredients that are in there. We're going to go on a different plan of attack, so to speak, with this and talk about immune system function. We will hit some of that stuff, but it's not going to be focused on that. And then we're going to go through at the end, what are your options as a parent with kids? So key points. We want to get these things kind of embedded into your brain here, is that there are separate branches of the immune system. These branches must be balanced in order to have great health. Natural immunity involves both sides of these branches of the immune system. Vaccine immunity only involves one. So in all cases with health, the more balanced you are, the healthier you will be. So we'll dive into those a little bit more. First thing when it comes to disease and health in general is you have two different kind of theories out there, the germ theory versus hygiene. The germ theory says, hey, if you get exposed to a germ, you're going to get sick. And there's germs all around us and you're just going to get sick all the time. Hygiene says, hey, we want to keep things clean too, to prevent a lot of that stuff from spreading. But if we look into actually viruses and bacteria, the most predominant forms of life on this planet are viruses, bacteria, and fungi, each with countless numbers of varieties and strains. So that being said, you can run, but you can't hide from this stuff. It's around us at all times. When the weight and number of these organisms are multiplied together, they're the greatest biomass in existence on Earth, and we can't hardly see them. So in this room right now, I guarantee you there's all kinds of viruses in here and bacteria and all that stuff. Don't freak out, you're going to be fine. So you have more bacteria in your body than you do cells. So we're made up of, it's kind of varying facts. Ben, what do you know about how many cells are in our body? What, like 70 trillion or something like that? There's that many more bacteria in our body than there are cells that are part of us. And they're all housed basically in our gut. So you can't run from these things. Seed versus soil. Let's dig into this a little bit. For those of you that work in a daycare setting or have multiple kids or grew up in a family with multiple kids, You know, if one person in your family or if one kid in daycare gets sick, why don't they all get sick, right? If it was truly the germ theory, if these kids or family members all get exposed to the same things, everybody should get sick at the exact same time, correct? But it's not the bacteria, the virus that causes the disease or the illness, the seed, so to speak. It's the health of the soil or the body, which allows the disease to progress. A good analogy here is in my office up in Menominee. We have a lot of farmers around that area. We have some organic farmers that come in, and the one organic farmer, he came to one of the classes, he like raises his hand in the middle of it, and I'm like, hey, you know, what's your question? He goes, hey, this is exactly like organic farming versus conventional farming. He goes, conventional farming, all they care about is how, you know, try to get the seed better, the seed better, the seed better. He goes, I could care less about the seed. He goes, I want it not to be GMO, I want it to be the organic seed. He goes, but I care about the soil. He goes, if I can take care of my soil, it doesn't matter. He's like, I can plant good seeds or great seeds. It's going to grow really, really well. He goes, and I don't have to spray stuff all over it to try to treat that plant to get healthy. I just treat the soil, it stays healthy. Same thing with our bodies. If we can allow ourselves to stay in a healthy state through a lot of stuff that we'll talk about today, you're going to prevent a lot of this stuff from attacking you, so to speak, or getting into your system and allowing you to get sick. Dr. Fred Barge, I love this quote here. He said, if the germ theory were true, there would be no one around to believe it. So that's being said, hey, every time you come in contact with a germ, if you were to die, nobody would be around, because we are around them nonstop. So, again, balance is the key. So now this is where the science kind of comes into play here for those of you that are kind of science brain people. These are the two branches of the immune system. The first one is your Th1, or your cell-mediated immune system. What this system does is it basically has killer T cells. What it does is it goes around, attacks the initial infection, the germ, the bacteria, the fungus, the virus, whatever, and it creates an inflammatory response. So when this system is in full go, that's where you're going to get your fevers, your rashes, your diarrhea, maybe even puking, all the not so fun stuff with parenting. That's your T1 system into play. That's that first branch. The second branch is the Th2 system. So that's this humoral immune system. So this is the system that's responsible for, after you get an infection, after you get exposed to whatever you're exposed to, and your body creates a response to it. This is a system that just says, all right, what was that? Let's make some memory cells out of this. There's some antibodies to this, so that the next time we come in contact with it, we don't create this big inflammatory response anymore. Your body just takes care of it. You don't get the big rashes, fevers, sweats, diarrhea, and all that. It just says, all right, we'll take care of this, and we'll protect you from future attacks. So those are the two systems. A lot of pediatricians, if you ask them, hey, how does the immune system work? They'll stop right here and they won't have a clue even the difference between T1 and T2 systems. I found that out in our community when our parents go in and ask, you know, how do vaccines work? Which system do they work on? And they're like, it works in the immune system. Well, what system does it work on? The immune system. Well, which part of the immune system? Well, it's the immune system. They don't even know that there's two branches to this. So, big thing, two branches, T1, T2. You want to have a balance of both of these branches. A good balance, like a 50-50 ratio, is ideal. It's basically the same concept of, hey, when you're working out or something, you don't want to just work your right side nonstop and let the left side go, because, hey, you're not going to be balanced. You're going to cause issues that show up later in life, as far as the musculoskeletal thing. Same thing with the immune system. So if we talk about natural immunity, this is when this is kind of all of us in this room, except for maybe some of the little ones in here, we probably all had chicken pox, right? So when we had chicken pox when we were little, not fun probably for the parents that remember it. I can't even remember having it, so to me it's not a big deal. But when you get a natural immunity, I like to use chicken pox because it's a very visual thing, most people have been around it. So you get exposed to that chicken pox. Your body gets that T1 response up and rolling, saying, hey, this is a virus, let's get rid of this thing. So what happens when you get chicken pox, right? Get the blotches all over, they itch, they pus, the kid maybe get a fever or whatever. It's the body literally getting rid of that antigen. It's kicking that virus out. So what happens then is your T2 system comes into play and says, hey, chicken pox. Thanks for fighting that off, T1. Yeah, let's make some memory cells here. So create some antibodies, which then says, hey, you're immune to chickenpox the rest of your life. You could be around it all the time. You're not going to get it in most cases, again. So that's natural immunity. T1 branch got stimulated, kicked that virus out. Now T2 says, hey, thanks a lot, T1, let's make a memory cell. We got this thing covered. You have lifelong immunity to it. So that's where you get this achy face, cough, rash, fevers, all that stuff. In our office, we call it, hey, they're showing health symptoms. I like when kids end up showing some of that stuff. That tells me that they're fighting stuff off and creating immune responses. So what's the vaccine goal? The vaccine's goal is to provoke the immune system without causing the symptoms of the disease. So it's just going to stimulate the T2 response. It's going to bypass T1. So by stimulating that T2 response, vaccines trick the body to produce antibodies literally without causing the symptoms of the disease. Sounds good, right? So let's look at how vaccines work again. So it's another video.
An illness can be caused by pathogens, bacteria and viruses that cause disease. These foreign invaders can enter the body in different ways, such as through an open wound, by inhalation, or through contact with mucous membranes of the eyes, nose, or mouth. If your body becomes infected by a pathogen, the white blood cells circulating in the blood go through a trial and error period to determine the best way to kill the organisms. During this period, the body is sick with symptoms of the illness. When the white blood cells determine how to destroy it, they create memory cells to handle future attacks of that same pathogen. Vaccination is a way to trigger the body's immune response without becoming sick. The vaccine contains weak or dead organisms that usually do not cause illness. The body is able to destroy the pathogen in the vaccine and produce memory cells. When the body develops immunity to a specific pathogen, immunization has occurred. If the body is ever exposed to the same pathogen in the future, the memory cells react quickly without a trial and error period. This allows the body to destroy the pathogen efficiently before it can cause illness.
So that's how the vaccines work. So that's the science behind it. It's not stimulating that T1 response. It's going to just stimulate that T2. So a quick review on this section. Cellular, the T1 inflammatory attack system response. That's that one that's going to show up as the fevers, rashes, coughs, puking, diarrhea, all that fun, nasty, icky stuff. Humoral response, that's that T2 system. It's going to be B cell activated for those science buffs in here. Natural immune system requires a 50-50 ratio, and natural infection stimulate both. Vaccines only stimulate the T2 response. So, when you only and constantly stimulate that T2 response, sometimes you're going to read in the literature now, especially if you're doing scientific journal research, there's some articles out on this humoral shift, it's called, where the immune system starts to shift more towards that T2 branch. So if we look into this, obviously it's only by, vaccines only stimulate that T2 branch, so that vaccines actually shift that child's immune system away from that T1 branch to where they fight things off quick. So what happens when you start to stimulate only T2? It causes a hypersensitivity. The body kind of gets plugged up, so to speak. And that shift goes over to T2, and hypersensitivity always leads to these things. The allergies, the ADHD, the asthma, the cancers, the autoimmune disorders. If the immune system's out of balance, these things can run more rapidly in people. So since vaccines only activate the B cells to secrete the antibody, the killer T cells are subsequently suppressed. And the killer T cells are the ones that grab these diseases and kick them out. So if those killer T cells are not able to kick things out, that stuff just stays in your system. So essentially, you're only winning half of the battle. You get a lot of antibodies in your body. So that's in the medical world. They love antibodies. They want to always test antibody levels. You get a lot of them in there. But antibodies can't do two major things. They can't get in to eliminate the virus. They can't kill the infected viruses themselves. all they can do is just kind of circle them and encapsulate them. So this causes the body to get stuck in this hypersensitive mode, and it's not focused on the elimination of these diseases. It drives the infection deeper and causes the body to hydrate chronically. So it's essentially just constipation of the immune system. And if you get constipated for yourself as far as going to the bathroom, that's not good. You end up getting toxic. Everything kind of sits in your system. You don't eliminate it. Same thing with the immune system. It gets a little bit toxic when that T2 system is constantly stimulated. So that being said, only stimulate that T2 system, and kids don't get sick at all, and you're using antibacterial this and that on everything. Essentially what you're doing is you're going to be leaving a kid with a weakened immune system. So a child in T2 dominance is left more susceptible to intracellular organisms such as viruses, and is therefore more prone to ear infections, respiratory infections, and GI infections. This is from Dr. Marini. He teaches a neuroimmunology class that I had to sit through a couple of years ago. So essentially, we could be weakening these immune systems overall to a lot of things. T2-linked diseases that are on the rise: allergies, asthma, autism, dermatitis, lupus, cancer, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. All these things are autoimmune diseases. It's the body attacking itself because it doesn't know itself from something that's foreign, because it's just been constantly stimulated. So, by overstimulating all these systems, we're essentially disturbing nature's balance. And this is kind of stuff that we've already gone through here. I just kind of reiterated it here. Kids are just left with literally weaker immune systems. And that's why we see the rise of all this stuff that's going on. I like this quote here too. This is from a medical doctor. There is no system in the human being, from mind to muscles to immune system, which gets stronger through the avoidance of challenges, but only through overcoming challenges. So if you want to get somebody to be a better athlete, you don't tell them to avoid the gym and stay away from the weights because you don't want to get hurt. You tell them, hey, do this in a good way and get stronger. Same thing with the immune system. Hey, you might need to get sick a little bit to get stronger. So this here, a video clip from the doctors. We have 2 video clips here. These get pretty heated, and this is where this topic, in the medical world, they think it's a black and white issue. It's not a black and white issue. There's a gray area in this. But in the medical world, they really, really want to focus on, hey, if you think of anything different than what the FDA or the CDC recommends, you're kind of a quack, some loopy person that's way out there. So they kind of debate this on the doctor show, and I like these 2 clips because it kind of shows both sides, and it gets some of these medical doctors thinking a little bit here too.
In 2008, already over 130 cases of measles, the biggest outbreak since 1996. And the CDC is blaming these pockets of children where there are communities where parents are choosing not to vaccinate their kids. And this is a real concern for us.
Right, this is probably one of the biggest vaccine questions, because the measles vaccine, well, actually the MMR, which is part of the measles, that's probably one of the biggest controversial vaccines. Maybe 10 years ago, this thing with autism came up, but that really seems to have settled down a lot. Most of the evidence linking measles with autism is kind of settled down, and most of the doctors and scientists agree that it probably isn't the major cause. But I still have a lot of parents coming into my office saying, I want to get vaccine, but I don't want to get that. And I say, okay, well, let's talk about it. What are the risks of measles? Most people don't know. 1 out of every 1,000 kids that get measles will die. It can be a fatal illness. It is very, very contagious.
Now, tell us what the measles are, because most people have never seen it.
Many times it's just that it's a mild illness. You get this terrible rash and a fever and terrible cold symptoms, and your child is miserable, cough. But in some kids, it can be much, much more severe than that and fatal.
That's a great point. We do have a guest. Barbara Lowe-Fisher is here from the National Vaccine Information Center. I want you to give us your opinion. Is this measles outbreak something that you look at and think, well, whoa, we need to be careful here about the message we're sending to moms? Because if they don't vaccinate, we could have a measles outbreak, and it could become an epidemic where, like years ago, 4 million people are getting the measles.
Well, I mean, I have to come from the perspective of a parent who has a vaccine-injured child. I mean, in 1980, I took my bright, healthy, precocious little 2.5-year-old boy in for a 4th DBT shot. And within hours of that shot, I witnessed him suffer a convulsion, a collapse shock, a state of unconsciousness, and he was eventually diagnosed with minimal brain damage, including multiple learning disabilities and attention deficit disorder. With regard to measles, 131 cases of measles out of 300 million people is not an epidemic. We have a 98% vaccination rate.
It's not an epidemic because kids are being vaccinated.
Okay, we have more than tripled the numbers of doses of vaccines we're giving our children in the last quarter century. At the same time, we have seen children become disabled and chronically ill. 1 in 6 child in America is now learning disabled. 1 in 9 has asthma. 1 in 100 to 150 develops autism. 1 in 450 has diabetes. That's the big question. Why are so many highly vaccinated children so sick?
And let's quickly explain how a vaccine works.
The vaccine basically is an injection with maybe a killed virus in there or a killed bacteria. So that killed or part of the bacteria basically fools the immune system into thinking the child just got the illness. So that the immune system's memory can then be ready for the next time the child gets exposed to the real illness and can fight it off.
And so that's why we as doctors love vaccinations, because they prevent huge outbreaks of illnesses that can kill children. But explain to us why you feel so passionately.
Okay, the first sentence I have to say is I'm not out to ban vaccines. I believe in the concept of eradicating infectious diseases. Sure. Right now, the one-size-fits-all for everybody, not working. A vaccination is a medical procedure that should have questions prior to getting a vaccination, such as, is your child currently ill? Is your child currently taking antibiotics? Does your family have a history of autoimmune disease? Is your child allergic to eggs, MMR, cultured in an egg medium? None of these questions are ever asked. A 5-pound preemie gets the same vaccination as a 10-pound full-termer. They need to be individualized.
And explain why you feel this way and why you decided not to vaccinate your youngest children.
So I have 3 children. My oldest, I was kind of a sacrificial lamb. He was vaccinated and had a huge amount of thimerosal, a huge amount of mercury. And after he had the MMR and the chickenpox vaccination on the same day, we never saw him again for 3 years.
Never saw him again.
He developed autism. He lost language. He lost social skills. He lost bowel control. He became very sick. Within hours of vaccination. So, I held his hand over the proverbial fire. He got burned. Don't ask me to line up my other 2 children to get burned again. What kind of parent would I be?
And that's really the discussion we want to focus on here, is the requirement that you have to vaccinate your children in certain states. Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the most part, vaccinations are required.
Right. Some of the other states will have religious exemptions, not just personal exemptions, but yeah, some states you're stuck. You can't go to public schools. You may have to, a lot of parents have to homeschool. And that in itself creates a pocket.
What if I have a familial history to a negative response to vaccination? I'm literally supposed to vaccinate or educate, like I have to choose. Education or vaccination? Should I be mandated by the government?
I will say no, you shouldn't, because I do have a few families in my practice that have some sort of familial tendency towards reactions to certain vaccines, the live vaccines, and they're in studies in a place like UCLA. But that's not all families. It's just a few families. That's why I'm against mandatory vaccines. I think somebody should have the right to say no. Here's the thing, there's a lot of studies out there. Some of them show zero, let's just talk about autism first. Some of them show no rate, and some of them show a possible rate. Me as a physician, I stayed with an open mind when the autism vaccine debate first came online, and I had a lot of parents scared and asking me questions, and I kind of went along with it. But over the last several years, the data has shown, okay, it probably isn't just the vaccines. What is it? We still don't know.
I believe there's other environmental triggers.
Maybe kids get these illnesses without getting vaccinated.
But what a great study. If Offit and Gerberding and a bunch of other people would go, let's study the vaccinated versus the non-vaccinated. No one is doing that study. That study needs to be done.
I do agree with you in terms of the one size does not fit all.
One size fits all doesn't work in medicine in general.
Exactly. So why are we doing that with vaccines?
Everyone wants doctors to have all the answers, but you can't have all the answers when there's an emerging new problem. And this new illness that's on the rise, something like autism, where there's absolutely no evidence that it's from vaccines.
I would love to protect my child from infectious diseases. I would love to walk into your office and feel completely confident, yes, I'd like this shot, and my child's going to be fine. The fact is, I walked in, he got shots, and he didn't speak to me for 3 years.
Dr. Altman, I'm curious of your thoughts, because I have to tell you, I tend to agree with Dr. Sears that, hey, if you're a mom and you're educated and you don't want your kids to be vaccinated, you should have that choice if you're making an informed decision, in my opinion.
The problem is that these diseases are still out there. And when we have pockets of kids that aren't immunized, or infants that are too young to be immunized, or immunocompromised children that can't be immunized, these diseases spread very quickly, and we see a lot of children dying. Two things that I do want to point out, because I do find that moms, when they come to my office, they don't understand this, is that vaccines are always changing and being improved thanks to vaccine technology. The vaccines we give today are very different from the vaccines that we gave 30 years ago. And you explained how vaccines work. There's those little immunologic particles in them, or immunogenic particles. And all the vaccines together today have less of those than one vaccine did 30 years ago. So that's something that parents don't understand.
Forgive me if I don't trust the pharmaceutical industry. I'm sorry, their bottom line is $1. My bottom line is my child. I don't trust the pharmaceutical industry.
Let me say this, I will guarantee you, Dr. Altman and Dr. Sears' bottom line is saving child's lives. I will guarantee you that they have
Then
nothing.
fall all over yourselves to make vaccines safer, and I will be the first one at your door to sign my kid up for inoculation.
I totally agree with you. I think vaccines have gotten safer, like you said. Even the vaccine that harmed your child, that's been improved, Barbara.
Like any other drug, they carry a risk. It's greater for some than others. Informed consent has been the central ethical principle in the practice of modern medicine. Vaccines should be not separated out from the informed consent ethic. And I think it's a human right to be able to decide what you are willing to risk your life for, or your child's life for.
I think it's so important. I sit down with parents, if they're being vaccinated or not. Parents want to know. They want to be informed. And they want to know, what are my risks for catching an illness? What are my risks for being harmed by a vaccine? And between 1991 and 01, out of 1.9 billion doses of vaccines given, there was 18,000 adverse, bad outcomes. 1 in 5,500 doses of vaccines will cause a problem. It sounds pretty bad, but what are the kids' risks at catching one of these illnesses? 85,000 kids a year will catch some sort of vaccine-preventable illness. Out of 50 million kids, that comes to about 1 in 600 kids a year will catch some sort of vaccine-preventable illness, and that's each year.
But doctor, we still need to go back to this question, this big question. As we have suppressed so many infectious diseases in childhood, we have seen this corresponding rise in chronic disease and disability. And I think it's a fair question for parents to ask. And scientists and doctors in the federal health agencies have got to answer this for us. Have we traded something?
Let me say one last thing. The life expectancy in this country is longer than it's ever been, and it's because of things like vaccinations. Now, you have your fears, and I understand that, but the reason you do is because you've had a terrible tragedy in your life. But there are a lot of people still alive today because of vaccinations, and we need to recognize that. And whatever side you take, we can all agree we are after the same goal. We want to keep our kids healthy. The bottom line is talk to your doctors, make an informed decision, be open